Good evening and welcome to the Parkland College Foundation's Entrepreneur of the Year program. This is the 7th annual Entrepreneur of the Year program sponsored by Parkland. Tonight, we honor Lori Gold Patterson, founder of CEO of Pixo. I'm going to say a few comments about Lori in just a few minutes, but I want to talk a little bit about the Parkland program and a few other items. First, I'd like to take a moment and introduce the past recipients who are with us tonight. I believe we have Dwight Miller, Murray Wise, and Steve Hillard. If you gentlemen would please stand and be recognized, appreciate that. Other recipients have been Clint Atkins, Rick Stevens, and Rudy Frasca. The Parkland Entrepreneurship Program, to my mind, does really three things. First, we recognize an outstanding entrepreneur tonight, Lori. Secondly, though, we celebrate the entrepreneurial spirit in our community and those who demonstrate leadership, who promote business growth, economic development, and job creation. And we are really blessed to live in a community that does just that. Whether through its Parkland or the U of I Engineering School, there is a lot of great entrepreneurship going on, and we should be very proud of that. Third, and probably most importantly with this program tonight, we provide funds to Parkland College to help further their mission of educating students in our area by doing so in an affordable and productive manner. This program has had over $640,000 of dedicated funds, with $450,000 being raised by the supporters and founders of the program. To date, over $61,000 in scholarships have been distributed. Parkland is a bedrock in our community, and it provides a lot of tangible benefits to everybody in this area. I'm going to take just a personal moment tonight and introduce my mentee for the last 8 years, Tykia James. Tykia, if you would stand up. TJ, as he likes to be called. TJ and I have been together since Robeson School, through Robeson, Jefferson, and Centennial. And in the fall, he will be starting in the Pathways program at Parkland, where he'll be at Parkland for a couple years, and then ultimately graduate, hopefully, from the University of Illinois, wanting to study, becoming a veterinary technician. So Parkland has created this opportunity for TJ, and we welcome him here tonight. Now I want to talk about Lori. All right. I love this crowd. It's a fired up crowd. Lori is as I mentioned, is the CEO and founder of Pixo. Pixo provides technology-based solutions for companies and not-for-profit entities. Among services offered are building custom applications, website development, business solutions, design, and strategy. The firm also works on cutting-edge hardware and software integrations. If you go to the Pixo website, which I did, there are numerous positive testimonials to the outstanding quality and focus of the work the company provides. Peter Fox, one of the founders of this program, has stated that Pixo is the best web technology consultant in the region. Lori herself has an outstanding career working extensively in corporate America before founding Pixo. She interned with John Deere before working several years at Anderson Consulting. She also worked at Caterpillar and Solo Cup, and at Solo Cup she headed up large teams of individuals that focused on multi-million-dollar projects for the company. In 1998, while raising a young family, she started Pixo along with her brother Siegfried, where they hired very bright young individuals and trained them to become programmers. Today, Pixo has a staff of 33 individuals, and the company is based in Urbana. Lori, when I had lunch with her, also spoke very highly of Brandon Bowersox, her partner in the business. Brandon! All right. I did have a delightful lunch with Lori in early March and got to know her, and she shared several business philosophies, entrepreneurial philosophies with me, which I thought I would just share a couple with you. One, she said, human spirit is what drives everything. When people feel safe, vulnerable, and empowered, that is when greatness happens. She likes the throneless mentality, where everyone in the organization is empowered and breaking down barriers, and everyone relies on each other to make good decisions. Decisions should be a collaborative process, so there is a sense of accountability for all. In terms of her entrepreneurial philosophy, she mentioned that entrepreneurs are often spurred on by what she called irritants, I guess I would call problems in society today. The entrepreneur is driven to solve that irritant or problem in such a way that it makes the world a better place. Irritants can be opportunities in and of themselves. She's been a giver back to the community. She has provided consulting to over 150 startup organizations in this area. She's an entrepreneur in residence at the U of I Research Park. She has been described as specializing in loosening the stuffy, grounding the chaotic, and turning good ideas into profitable, sustainable entities. One of the things she shared with me that I was really most impressed with was that one of her goals in life was to make Champaign a place where young, bright, exceptional professionals would want to be. She's worked hard to do that, and she should be recognized for that activity. Later this evening, we'll hear from her husband, Will Patterson, who had a great conversation with an entrepreneur himself. But I also want to acknowledge her children, Maya, Jordan, and Donovan. Unfortunately, I don't think Jordan could be here tonight because he's studying for finals, but the other kids are here. And I believe Lori's mom, Ronna James, is also here tonight. Lori speaks very fondly of her father, Mark Gold, who passed away when she was in high school. Her father was an inspiration who assisted those who were disabled to become productive, functional members of society. He showed major companies throughout the country that those with disabilities could be productive to their enterprises and add value. Finally, I would note that Lori is the first recipient in the 7 years of the program that I believe has a direct connection to Parkland College as a student. Lori shared that Parkland played a meaningful role in her life, helping getting her on the right path before she went on to the University of Illinois and earned her degree in mechanical engineering. Tonight's recipient, Lori Patterson, is bright, hardworking, multi-talented, and very deserving of the Parkland Entrepreneur of the Year Award. She, like past recipients, have a great sense of community and strive to make Champaign-Urbana a better area and a better place for all of us to live. We look forward to hearing more about Lori later on this evening. And with that, I believe I'm going to turn it over to Ellen Schmidt to learn more about the Parkland Entrepreneurial Program. Oh, I'm sorry, Tom. Okay. My bad.
I'm not sure what to say. I know you're all very, very disappointed that it's not Ellen, and I'm sure no one more than Peter. But thanks for being here. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. If it's your first time to the Entrepreneur Dinner, we appreciate very much your participation. For those of you that have been here 1 or 6 times before, thank you for coming back. It's our pleasure to host this event again this year. One of my, I dare say favorite quotes, but that doesn't seem to cover it well. Maybe one of the most interesting quotes that I've read maybe in my recent history, is attributed to a gentleman by the name of Thomas Carlyle. Perhaps you've heard of him. He was a 19th century historian, and he was the author of a theory that he called the Great Man Theory. And in this theory, it explains historical events through the lens of the people who actually created it, the great men, so to speak. The history of the world is the biography of great men, is his actual quote. So in other words, the study of the impact of great men and women, I might add, highly influential individuals who either due to personal charisma, intelligence, wisdom, or some combination of those, or perhaps a more Machiavellian instinct, acquired and used power in ways that had a decisive historical impact. Well, these days, Mr. Carlyle's theory has fallen a little bit out of favor, at least with professional historians, perhaps our governor and Speaker of the House. Instead, they focus on social, political, economic, and other forces that appear to shape historical developments in the belief that they offer perhaps a more scientific explanation. And while this great man theory has disappeared from the history textbooks, it continues to be taught, interestingly enough, in graduate programs that focus on leadership and management and result in the ever popular and difficult to answer question, is it the person that impacts the times, or the times impact the person? Well, in my own reflections, I've found that women and men who rise to the top are those that have devoted virtually everything they had to their enterprise, whatever it may be. Personal resources, time, energy, enthusiasm, and of course that ever magical and sometimes hard to find ingredient that's called hard work. So it's very fitting, in my opinion, that we recognize the achievements of Lori Gold Patterson in a very special way, because she is the personification of those standards. So in celebrating Lori tonight, we also celebrate many of you that are in the room as well. Risk takers, leaders, people who are willing to play that ultimate game, wagering their capital and their reputation, or perhaps both, on a willingness to assume responsibility for the success or failure of their ideas. Entrepreneurship. So it's with Parkland College and 8 founders that Greg introduced. We have stepped forward to promote a course of study, a set of programs, and a set of scholarships that recognize that very need in this community. And every day at Parkland College there are entrepreneurs in development, from freelance dental hygienists and occupational therapy students, and 100 and some odd other different programs as well. And there are thousands of more students at Parkland College with the potential to become just as remarkable as Lori, with a little bit of a push in the right direction, a little bit of a nudge at the right time by the right person. And I think you'll find from Lori's story a little bit later that that's maybe exactly what happened to both Will and Lori while they were at Parkland. So our thanks to each of you for attending today on behalf of the Parkland College Board of Trustees. And I should mention, I think we have one trustee with us today, and that is Mr. James Ayers, a longtime member of our Board of Trustees. Mr. Ayers, if you'd stand up, let us clap for you. There he is. So with one small change to Mr. Carlyle's venerated theory, let me end with a new quote: "The history of the world is the biography of great women tonight." We celebrate your accomplishments, Lori. Congratulations on behalf of the college.
Good evening. I'm Ellen Schmidt, the Executive Director of the Parkland College Foundation. Parkland College Foundation is pleased to host the 7th Annual Entrepreneur of the Year Banquet. Tonight, it is our pleasure to honor Lori Patterson and celebrate the spirit of entrepreneurship and the impact on our students and our community. In addition to the support of the Parkland Network, this year, the Foundation provided funding for over 350 scholarships, along with program assistance for a total of nearly $1 million to support the mission of the college to engage the community in learning. This year, as we celebrate 50 years of student success, we have a goal to provide 50 new named scholarships to provide financial support and tuition for students seeking educational opportunities. Our Parkland College Foundation board members are some of the most dedicated ambassadors and supporters of our students. Please join me in recognizing those in attendance tonight. We have Jim Ayers, our president, Carol Charlo, our vice president, Jill Ahrens, Scott Miller, Gail Rost, Charlie Chaplin, and our newest board member in July, Dan Marker. The opportunity for our students in the Parkland Entrepreneurial Network, as well as students enhancing their skills for success, are made possible by the generosity of the Parkland College Entrepreneur Program founders, our sponsors, our donors, and each one of you here this evening. I would also like to acknowledge Carl Meyer for working with these community leaders to create this partnership with Parkland College. Carl. And I would like to take this opportunity to recognize and thank all of our corporate and individual sponsors who are listed in your program for the support of our event this evening. I'd like to thank our presenting sponsor, Mike Guth, and our friends from Super Value. I'd also like to thank our program sponsors, Cozad Asset Management, Murray Wise & Associates, and the News Gazette. Our corporate sponsors, Central Illinois Manufacturing, Fox Atkins Development, and Illinois American Water. And our event sponsors, Mark and Jill Ahrens, Busey Bank, First Mid-Illinois Bank and Trust, Frasca Flight Simulation, HL Precision Manufacturing, Regency Apartments, Rick Stevens, RSM, Meyer Capel, Vertical Tower Partners, and Warden Martin. Let's give them all a big hand. And now I'd like to introduce you to Seamus Riley, our Vice President for Institutional Advancement. Seamus works closely with the Entrepreneur Program and will share with you some of the highlights as well as the future of the program. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you very much for being here. Congratulations once again to Lori. It's a real privilege to be part of this celebration. I want to just take a few moments just to highlight some of the things that we've been doing at Parkland with the entrepreneurial program. Dr. Martin Luther King said, faith is taking the first step even when you can't see the staircase. And I remember the first conversation we had with some of the founders, including Mr. Peter Fox, and I remember him outlining what the vision of what he saw as the future for the entrepreneurship program at Parkland College. And I remember thinking that really is a lot of faith and a lot of vision, and I hope we can realize it. But what I've come to realize, including sitting at the table tonight with Mr. Kruger here, is that we make miracles happen at Parkland, and we do it one person at a time. And sometimes, just like an amateur gardener that I am, we plant the seeds, and we have faith that the seeds will come up. And they do come up, but very, very slowly. And everything has to die for us, and it seems like it's going to take an age, and it's not going to happen. But slowly, over the years, we have had a profound impact on our community, and it's amazing to think of all the people who are sitting in here tonight who have either personally been influenced or impacted by the experience that they've had at Parkland College, or whose family has been impacted. I myself, as a former educator and teacher at Parkland College, now rub shoulders at Economic Development Corporation meetings with people who were in my class as students and wondered if they would make it to the University of Illinois, if they would complete the degree, if they would make it into the career of their choosing. So what we have done at Parkland is try to cultivate, through the help of Karis Lee, an experience for our students where we meet them one-on-one, we listen to the things that they have to say, and we try to create an incubator environment for them, either in service learning projects or in real-life projects. And what happens is those students learn how to collaborate, they work with people in the community, they learn about the difficulties of seeing things through to fruition. Two examples of that we have ongoing at Parkland College are the Applied Media Promotions Group under the leadership of the Dean of Arts and Sciences, Nancy Sutton, Dr. Nancy Sutton, and faculty member Kendra McClure, and ably shepherded and corralled and coerced and enticed into great work by Cindy Smith. And I think they're at the back, so if you would all stand and be recognized. The idea of AMP is, and they were part of the design for the program tonight, the idea of AMP is to create an environment where students get an opportunity with supervision to try to actually see what it's like to work with a client and see a product and actually see something through to fruition. Most of these students then go on into careers, internships throughout our community and become your employees and work to make your companies better. An emerging one, a new one this year, is Perimeter Road Records, and also under the leadership of Arts and Sciences and Housed in Fine and Applied Arts. I'd like to, at this point, ask Chris to, if he's here, yeah, he is, to tee up a short video that we have to spotlight what work they do there.
Perimeter Road Sound Recordings is an on-campus, student-staffed record label here at Parkland College. The ultimate goal and really the primary idea was give students an opportunity to get some music business experience outside of what they might get in their coursework.
Here at Perimeter Road, I'm not just the lead engineer or just the events planner. I also work with social media, I work with design, I work with the business management aspect of it, so I get a little taste of everything.
I really love being with the students and interacting with them. They've got a lot of creativity and a lot of intelligence. It's fun to be part of that creative process with them. They might be looking for advice and looking for direction, but in reality, if you kind of give them a little bit of a free hand, it's amazing what they can come up with on their own.
This first semester was all about getting all of the sessions in, getting all the recordings done, and working on mixing those songs into something that is professional quality.
Once we finish recording that EP and release it, having that actual EP release show where we get to see all of our hard work come to life.
Once I'm getting behind the scenes and seeing it, how much really goes into making a song is incredible, how much tiny little details and all these little things, which is great because the students are getting that first-hand experience and hands-on experience, learning that.
Every moment that I've spent within Perimeter Road Sound Recordings has been extremely fulfilling and extremely exciting and just engaging in a lot of ways I couldn't even have imagined at the beginning.
I see nothing but wonderful things in the future for Perimeter Road Sound Recordings, and I hope to really build it up and make a name for ourselves here on campus and in the community, and I see it as a very valuable asset to the college as we move forward in the future.
At this point, I would like to ask a Parkland entrepreneurial student and the winner of the Murray Weiss Award to come up to the stage and say a few words, and to publicly acknowledge and thank Murray Weiss for his wonderful support of the program that he has put forward at Parkland College, and look forward to expanding and developing his initiatives and ideas as we go forward. Go ahead.
Thank you, and good evening to everyone. Thank you for showing. I want to personally thank the Parkland Foundation and Mr. Wise. I really do believe that this is a great award for our community and for all entrepreneurs, people who aspire to be entrepreneurs, not just students, but everyone. I urge everyone to take the risk and just take the leap of faith like I did myself. And while we're on the topic of the perspective that I believe Murray Wise Associates shares about community, I wanted to discuss what I learned achieving this award and what I've done just this last year. I learned that community is probably the single most important thing about entrepreneurship or business there possibly can be. I believe, and I've learned, that when you bring people inside of communities together and when you bring other communities together, you can pretty much accomplish anything. I was told by my parents when I first started my own company that, you know, it's going to be difficult, your hair is going to fall out, and you know, stuff like that, trying to, you know, probably bring me back to earth. But I reached out to some people, Miss Kendra McClure over there. I walked into her office and just talked to her about some ideas that I had, and she put me in contact with a lot of great people who just reshaped my imagination. And what I really want to drive the point about community is, with community you can make the impossible possible. So I urge everyone tonight, if it means anything from an arrogant 21-year-old, to share your ideas, your experiences, and your perspectives with people around you, people you haven't met. I'm sure, you know, through 6 degrees of separation, maybe we all do know each other in here. And to shed that perspective that you've gained. And myself, my idea flourished inside of a coffee shop, Flying Machine Coffee, and who knows, maybe the next biggest thing is sitting in this room right now. So thank you again to the Parkland Foundation, thank you Mr. Wise, and thank you to everyone for showing up tonight.
Thank you. Okay, I found out where my brain was. It was on my phone. Matt Cho is in fact going to be the entrepreneur in residence, and nobody reacted when I said that, which was what freaked me out, because I thought I'd said the wrong name. So yes, so thank you. Please applaud. That was a good thing, right? That's a good thing for Parkland. Again, thank you very much to everybody. We are very privileged to have this opportunity. I'm so grateful for all the support the community shows. Great to be here to celebrate Laurie's achievements. And with that, I want to hand it back over to Mr. Kozad. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Seamus. Well, tonight, this part of the program, we get into the tributes for Laurie. And we have 3 great speakers to share their thoughts that know her well and give some perspective on what she's accomplished. Our first speaker tonight is Laura Frericks. Laura is very accomplished herself. When you think of the research part, one of the first people that come to my mind is Laura. She's responsible for Enterprise Works, the technology incubator, which I think has over 40,000 square feet in this area, and marketing the research park and supporting the U of I's economic development efforts. There are over 90 companies located in the research park. It's growing constantly, and over 200 acres of land. Under her leadership, the research park was named the U of I's by AURP, the Outstanding Research Park in 2011, by Inc. magazine as one of the top 3 college towns incubators in 2013, and by Forbes as one of the top 10 incubators changing the world. Like Lori Gold Patterson, Laura has been an Athena Young Professional Award winner as an outstanding female business leader in our community. Laura, would you come up and share some words about Lori?
Thank you so much for the kind words, and it is an absolute honor tonight to be able to share some thoughts about a woman that I have an endless amount of respect and admiration for, and I'm so thrilled that she's winning this recognition in our community tonight. So thank you to Lori for everything you do, and I'm so lucky to get to share some of the things I've learned about Lori over the years and reasons why I think that she's so impactful in our community. She's one of those rare people you meet and you can't really believe that she really exists because she's done so many things that it's just impossible that all of these things could be in one person. And so I'm going to talk to you about this unicorn. In Silicon Valley, tech companies are referred to as unicorns, but she's really one in our community, and we're really lucky to have her. So Lori really exemplifies, as I thought about her award tonight, just the amount of perseverance through challenges and the heart. Her last name, originally Gold, she has that heart of gold that you just will know when you're around her. And it's really fit for that name. So there are many stories that I think we'll all be sharing tonight. And I'm very excited that Will, her high school sweetheart, will be telling you more personally about Lori. He's had his own challenges, I think, and perseverance is a theme that probably is important for him too. But Lori saw you, Dr. Patterson, back at the beginning and knew that you would make a big difference and that you had all the potential in the world behind you and that she saw that. And of course, that would become so important as life did have challenges ahead. And you had the heart, loyalty, and strength to get her through all that she needed in the most recent past as well. So sometimes things we do in high school make a bright future for us, and that was a right decision at that time. One of the next decisions she ended up making was choosing to become an engineer, and she went to the University of Illinois, but before she did that, she had to take a non-traditional path. And it was important that Parkland was there for her, and she recently spoke about that at her commencement address at Parkland College. So we're grateful that Parkland's in our community so that we can have people that go on to the accomplishments like her own. And that wouldn't have been possible, as she said, without taking advantage of all the resources that were available for her and having people in her life that trusted her and being able to really do the hard work, because all of this as being an entrepreneur is not easy, but it wasn't easy at that time to become what she knew she could be and to pursue that in her future. When she graduated, then Lori went on to become a hotsy-totsy consultant. She worked for one of the best consulting firms in the country, and with that, she had lots of opportunities to advise companies. She ended up working for Caterpillar and Solo Cup, and these were pretty male-dominated types of jobs. And she's told the stories about working in these types of environments and that she was given lots and lots of work because she would do it. She wasn't necessarily compensated for that because she was the one who would show up and do the work. And that wasn't necessarily fair, but life isn't necessarily fair. And sometimes those lessons you learn and you persevere through make you a little stronger, and that you can have advice you'll give others. So one of the stories she tells, and she has told many to inspire others, is about the struggle of being a working mom, though. She had 3 children, and here she was traveling as a consultant repeatedly. And one day her shoes were missing when she was going to go on a work trip because her son did not want her to go. And that was really important, I think, as a mom, that you think about what you're trying to do and balance and achieve, but also the ties you have back to your own family and the importance of that. So that's probably one of the key decisions of this struggle that she was going through that led her to take the next path in her life. And when she was a kid, she talks about having her own business in Urbana on sidewalks that she might reference later. So she probably had entrepreneurship in her core, but she decided that she would use a different talent that she had within her, and she decided she would become an entrepreneur. That was a pretty bold move, I'm sure, changing careers when you're at the top of yours, taking a steady job and doing something that inherently is risk. And for others, they might have seen just the gamble, just the risk. But she's an optimist, and she's filled with hope, and she saw the potential. So along with her brother, she started a company that now is called Pixo, and she has proudly led that company into a very cool software company right here in our community in Urbana. For nearly 20 years, this company has grown and thrived and evolved under her leadership, and that is no small accomplishment. And for those who say it can't happen in our town, it can. It's not just a company, though. When you get to know people at Pixo or you get to know Lori, you know a little bit more about culture. In her company, she is known for taking a chance on others. She proudly integrates people from non-traditional backgrounds and sees their talent. It's their potential. It's what others would have missed, but she sees can be really essential as part of the team. So her teams have always been interdisciplinary since I've been there, and that's a really cool thing to talk about now, but she was doing it long before everybody else was, and saw this idea that you could take people that were of smart backgrounds, smart people with different backgrounds, and collide them together, and that the creativity and inspiration from them would be better. So training humanities graduates to become software developers was a really bold idea, but it turned out well. But she also is known for helping others within the company. If you talk to Lori, she'll often talk about, how can I help build up somebody else in my team? What's their next move? Not what's my next move, but what's my team member's next move? What can I do to advance their potential as leaders? So culture is something that's really hard to develop, except for when you watch her do it, it seems so effortless because she's good at it. She creates a culture of compassion. It's a central part of everything they do. It's clear from the team when you talk to them that they have common purpose. They make decisions together about the company. They work together to exemplify excellence. And they have fun together. And if you've been to Innovation Celebration, where we celebrate the tech companies, you might have found it very fun to see the team dressed up in their tech geeky costumes of Star Trek characters or Doctor Who or whatever else was the fun thing of the year. And that's something that happens because it's less about self and more about team. As Lori has said, quote, the culture of Pixo is the most intentional part of our company and the thing that we're most proud of. We encourage vocal employees who are ingrained in the community, that work for nonprofits or volunteer for nonprofits and other initiatives. It's a culture of vulnerability, safe risk-taking, humans over profits, and an unwillingness to simply do what we're asked. But in addition to all of this work, Lori gives back at all times herself. So oftentimes, we're all stretched for time, and you think, I can't possibly do one more thing, and then I have to think of somebody like Lori, because somehow she makes it work. Even though others would all say she's overextended, she still keeps on doing more things. Whether that's working in Urbana at the Sweet Corn Festival, or whether that is as EDC chair, taking people out for coffee and wanting to hear about what their thoughts were about the community, or giving the most passionate commencement address imaginable at Parkland just very recently, where she showed the miracle of education and what's possible if you inspire people. So while she overcame many things in life, there was a greater challenge ahead of her that would make her do something that Lori probably had the hardest time doing, which is learning to accept the help of others, and that you can't do everything yourself, and that all of these life's journeys make it important that you have family and friends that are there for you as well, and that even through life's perils, you can persevere if you have the right people around you. So she fought through illness, even when wellness and her future seemed elusive and sometimes insurmountable. It showed off something that Lori has, and that's mental muscles. Her courage, her determination to fight, her resilience, and it was absolutely remarkable to watch Lori. All of these life lessons, obstacles, successes, feats, made her the absolute best coach, though, for entrepreneurs. Her hard work, her pay-it-forward mentality has just been undeniable. And she has pragmatism. She knows that things are not always easy. She knows it's going to be tough, but she also has this can-do enthusiasm that's just infectious. She's gone through adversity and she makes it through. Sometimes things are tough, but you need heart, toughness, intelligence to make the unattainable possible. So here are a few quotes from people who've worked with her that she's coached more recently, what they had to say, and I think it exemplifies that. So Scott Daigle is here from IntelliWheels. It's a wheelchair company, a wheelchair technology company in our community, and he had this to say: Lori was one of the first people to see the true potential in our company. We owe a lot of our success to her support. Lori is a tireless advocate for young startups in this community. As an advisor and a mentor, Lori has the ability to ask the tough questions and be able to cut to the heart of the matter while still maintaining and carrying the nurturing tone that allows you to grow. And his co-founder, Marissa, who's also here tonight, said it a little bit differently, but probably something that is very Marissa to say, and I love you for that, and for Lori. Lori has this extra special superpower. She has this way to have a vision and to clearly see the opportunities in companies and startups. But most importantly, Lori has a superpower that sees the opportunity in people. Scott and I are fortunate to have Lori use her supervision power to help us grow the company, but more importantly, to see the opportunities in ourselves. And lastly, I had a little bit of remarks that came from Leslie Cooperband from Prairie Fruits Farm in Urbana and Creamery. She had Lori helping, and she mentioned her work as an EIR for them and said, although we're not a typical tech startup company, Lori was extremely valuable to us. A decade-old business, she saw where we could go in the future. Not only to operate our business, but in a more financially sound way. She showed us that we are not alone. She listened, and she took in all of our seeming chaos and showed gentle but firm guidance on identifying opportunities in your business and moving forward. Lori provided invaluable insights and clarity through the fog and haze. She is my inspirational person. We feel so fortunate to have worked with her. So those are just some examples, I think, of the type of impact a person like this can have and how her clients and people she works with think about her. So on behalf of the many people that have been helped and inspired by Lori, including the entrepreneurial community and myself, I want to thank you for all you have done for our community through your success and service, for your friends that have seen your heart, and for your family that is able to see the steadfast love that makes them so special in your life. So thank you, Lori.
Wow, that was awesome. Thanks, Laura. Our next tribute presenter is Susan Tolson. Susan is a business development expert who I just recently actually met in Washington, D.C., of all places, and she works with the University of Illinois Credit Union as a chief marketing officer, where she actually has now worked on the first rebranding in their history. She was previously executive director of the Urbana Business Association, where she teamed with board chair Lori Patterson to significantly grow the city's economic development, including its marquee event, the Urbana Sweet Corn Festival. So Susan knows Lori very well, and will share a few words. Susan, please come on up.
I couldn't help but think all day today, as it was just this beautiful, brilliant sunshine, that what a most perfect day to be honoring this most brilliant woman. So thank you for everything coming together. When Lori called me and told me about this so deserved recognition, I was so thrilled for her. When she asked me to share some comments, it was such an honor. So I'm going to share a few stories about my dear friend, my professional mentor, somebody that I truly aspire. And actually, when I shared that with some of our Leadership Illinois alumni, you inspire all of us. And you know, I got to tell you, girl, you're also my girl crush. So our very first story, we're going to take it back to Sweet Corn Festival. It was our first. I was the first as the executive director. Lori was my board chair. She's no joke. And there were two areas that we wanted to focus on. One, we wanted to make money. At the end of the day, Sweet Corn Festival isn't just a great party. It's a way to have revenue so that we can build up the city of Urbana. And that is what Lori's all about. She came aboard with UBA because she had a vision that she wanted Urbana to be the type of community that her beautiful children would someday decide to come back to. So she was my board chair. The other area that we wanted to tighten up was the whole thing about beer sales. We had seen that maybe it was a little loose around the edges, and that was something that was very important to us. Okay, so it's Saturday night, it's Sweet Corn Festival, it's a little crowded, there are people everywhere. We're getting ready for our headliner, Parliament Funkadelic. Woo! And as any of you event planners, and I know there's a few in the room, could tell you, you know it's all hands on deck. So all my friends, all my family, everybody was volunteering that night, including my 16-year-old son, Christopher, and his Unity High School football buddies. He and his buds were responsible for selling Pepsi and water near the Sweet Corn tent. As I was making my rounds, getting closer to the main stage, I was not going to miss that act. I noticed that the Pepsi tent was slammed, and there was one volunteer missing, my son. Once things died down and the concert was over, I saw Chris. I asked him. I said, "Where were you? You dipped out on your friends. They were slammed." And he said, "Mom, this woman came up to me, pulled me off the Pepsi tent, and had me sell beer at the main stage." True story. He turned 16 2 days before. Now, imagine my horror, because now I have to come clean. You know, part of being a leader, and I'm being mentored by her, is being honest, right? So I needed to share this with my board chair. I hemmed, I hawed, I procrastinated before I finally found Lori. And I shared with her what had happened to Chris. I still had not figured out who this woman was. I was asking around as casually as possible. She looked at me with those big, beautiful brown eyes, and she said, and I will never forget this, "Girl, why does your son look so old?" We swore that day that we would never talk about it, right? So everybody in this room, we are now in Las Vegas. All right, so the second story that I want to share about illustrates how Lori has this ability, right? You know this. She can be your biggest supporter. She is your cheerleader, and she comes alongside you and she will lift you up. But you know what? She will also put you in check. She will give you the appropriate challenge when it's necessary. Anybody know about that being put in check moment? I do. All right. So being the executive of the UBA, those of you that have run not-for-profits, you understand that occasionally you have frustrating days, right? It happens. Well, this particular day, I'm driving home, and out of the blue, Lori called me. She wanted to see how things were going. Basically, she caught me at a wrong moment. So I kind of gave her the rant of all times. I mean, I went on and on and on about frustrations, yada, 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 all the things that I was feeling in that moment. To my board chair, Lori Patterson. She interrupted me, and she does not interrupt me, and she's very gracious. And she said, "Susan, people are attracted to your positivity, your optimistic views." I was like, what is she thinking? Has she lost her mind? I just gave her a doozer of a rant. And then all of a sudden she says, "But Susan, this woman on the phone with me right now, there is nobody that would be attracted to this girl." Those of you who know me No, this does not happen often. I was shocked, speechless. I finally recovered and I said, Lori, I can't talk to you right now, and I hung up. But I have to say that moment did not last for very long because her putting me in check was the perfect timing. It snapped me out of frustration and actually had me laughing at the situation in very short order. And within an hour, I think I called her and I thanked her, and we kind of had a great laugh, and she was like, man, you were on a rant. It was the wisdom of Lori to challenge me. But she does it with such tremendous love that it makes it easier to receive. And that is a really rare quality, that you can be somebody's cheerleader and then invested enough that you will engage with the right amount of energy, the right amount of love, that you will give the appropriate challenge. And I think that's a very rare gift that she has. And lastly, most of you know that Lori faced a formidable health challenge. I remember the evening that I told my family, and my family became her family because those that are around her all benefit from the love that she gives to everybody, including your family. And I had to tell my family what was going on with my incredibly dear friend. My youngest son, Noah, who's Donovan's age, looked at me and said, Mom, she's going to be fine. And I said, how do you know that? And Noah said to me, Lori is that one person. She's that person. She'll come through. It doesn't matter what the diagnosis is. It doesn't matter what she's going through. She's going to come through and she's going to be great. And in that moment, in my soul, I knew he was right. I knew Lori was going to thrive through this and be great. I didn't know at the time why that would be, but I learned. What I learned was she also has this incredible spirit of gratitude. It was her gratefulness for the community of friends that came together for her and her beautiful family. It was the gratitude she expressed with simple text messages or phone calls, cards that she would receive. It was her spirit of gratitude was always, constantly shining through. When she couldn't attend Leadership Illinois' walk and talks, well, we brought the walk and talks to her, and we walked her neighborhood, and her spirit beamed, and her gratitude and gratefulness was always shining through. That's it. Spirit of gratitude, gratefulness is the secret to life. It is the secret, and you embody it. There is nobody who exhibits that spirit more than you, Lori. You have said that vulnerable, authentic connections is what makes the world go around. And I believe our world, our community, is stronger and brighter because of you.
Wow, this is awesome. Our final tribute tonight is by Dr. Will Patterson, Lori's husband. Lori's husband. Dr. Patterson's a lecturer at the College of Engineering at the University of Illinois. And I was reading his bio today and then had a chance to talk to him. It says on his bio, focusing on preparing students of various hip-hop generations to be civic-minded, urban global leaders in cultural innovation, entrepreneurship, engineering, business, art, and technology. And when we were talking at the start of the event tonight, he was sharing with me who his sons, I believe, are both Eagle Scouts. And he breathes entrepreneurship also. And he's talking about getting his son started with a lawn mowing service with Eagle Scouts and promoting it. And then says, we'll get John Deere as a corporate sponsor. And I thought, wow, this guy's got it going on. Dr. Patterson's been with Lori a long time, and I think it's going to give us a family perspective. And please come on up and share.
Good evening. This room is just so amazing, and I'm going to talk to you in probably 3 different phases. One as Lori's friend, her husband, and I forgot that I'm getting you like you, Seamus. I'm about to mind, so you didn't shame us, okay? Lori and I have been friends for a long time. Urbana is a very exciting city because, you know, we're a microcosm of society, but we figured some things out around here, all right? And the first time I saw Lori was at Urbana Junior High School, and she was very different than me, of course. She was very different than what my sister looked like. She was very different from the family I come from. But there was something about her spirit then that said, I need to know that girl. And every time I saw her, I wanted to get to know her more. I wanted to get to know you more. And she wouldn't give me the time of day. But once I got an opportunity to get a photograph, 9th grade. I'm in 8th grade, she's in 9th. One of my friends, he was, I think, dating one of her friends, and I said, I need to get to know her. She came to our math class, I think it was in Miss Richardson's class. And I finally got the courage to go up to her class and ask her for a photo. And she gave me one. And that just about did it. And so each time I would see Lori, it would be these opportunities where I needed to try to muster up the courage to talk to her. And so we were at the junior high dance, and back then, of course, you were in the big gymnasium, and they let the lights come down back then. So every time I wanted to get with Lori to have a dance, somebody else would pull her. I'm like, just not having the courage to get it. I'm like, man, I'm gonna keep losing out, and she's about to go to high school. This is not going to happen, right? So I was a pretty good dancer back then. I could still get down a little bit, still move a little bit. And so I went on, and with peers of mine, we had a dance circle, and I kind of did some nice moves, stole her heart with a dance move. And one night, flipped the hat. You see her doing it, she flipped the hat, she remembers that. Terrence, you know what I'm talking about. So then she moved away to Georgia, so I didn't see Lori for about a year, maybe 2 years. And by that time, she was coming back. I was a sophomore. I think she was a junior. And I didn't know how to engage her. I was on a different mindset, and I was on to some other things and making some different choices. And so, but I always remembered that she was the woman that I liked. And then I remember the very day that I had the second opportunity. So she had a boyfriend at the time. And yeah, you know. So something must have happened, and he's walking, huffing like this on, I think if you remember Raleigh Junior High School, if you walk towards Vine in the backdrop to get to the gymnasium, she's giving him the business. And he's saying something, and she said, if you keep walking, you're going to walk out of my life forever. That dude stopped. And he turned around and said, what? I said, okay, you just lost. I said, and this is the first that I learned about what I call Jewish Jedi mind tricks. That one right there. Because that's where the negotiation move was happening. I said, you just lost, right? They ultimately broke up. And somehow we end up hanging out a little bit, and I got a chance to meet her father before Dr. Gold passed away. And we got together because we were spirited around automobiles. I love hot rods, motorcycles, anything that's fast, and music. And so she said, you need to meet my dad. We talked cars and stuff, and Lori had some pretty cool cars at the time, or at least her parents did. So we went and met her dad, and I got a chance to sit down and talk to him, and we just had a great conversation about cars. And he said, Lori needs to take you down to the garage. I have a 47 Mercury coupe down there, and I have a 47 Woody station wagon. and you love these things. I said, oh, so I was just like on a high, because here I am, I'm from the north end of Champaign. I've never seen any of those automobiles he's talking about, but I loved hot rods, because my cousin, my aunt, Ethel May right here, her oldest son had one of the coolest cars I had ever seen, so he had instilled the spirit of hot rodding in me. And so she took me down to the garage one day, and I just saw these immaculate automobiles. And I would go back and talk to Dr. Gold about the cars, and Lori told me one day, she said, my dad said that you made him forget that he was sick. And that to me, and I was a 17-year-old boy at the time, I had just graduated from Urbana. I had graduated early because my sister had graduated early, so I got all my credits early. And I was trying to figure out in life what to do. Didn't have a plan, but I knew that my sister graduated early, and I've always followed my sister, who's not here, unfortunately, and she wishes that she was, you know that. So I speak for her and Mama, right? So he passed away. Lori had a hard time, a lot of family transition. Her mom moved out to Arizona. It was just a lot of things going on that was just very unsettling as a 17-year-old trying to figure out that part of your foundation had just been crumbled. And so she was my friend. And as a 17-year-old, I didn't know exactly what to do, other than I knew she was crying a lot of pain, a lot of hurt. And so I wanted to do what I could do to try to make it right. The choices I made weren't the right choices. It got me sent away to prison for about 2 years. But here's where where the shift came, and where it's important when you start talking about people that take risk. And that's why Lori is the ultimate risk taker. So she's in Arizona, we're talking, I'm in DLC, I think I'm in Springfield. They had a work camp at the time. I'm living on the Springfield, the fairgrounds, and we were cleaning stalls. And I would tell her about my prison journey, and I mean, I went all through the system. But what I knew was that I wasn't a bad kid. I knew I had made some poor choices, and I didn't have a plan for life. And when you don't have a plan for life, you start falling for a lot of different things. You start making poor choices and doing some different things. And so, but I knew that because that I came from a strong family and had a strong family background, it was time to figure it out. So I said, you know what? I'm going to come out of this situation. I'm going to get me a doctorate, and you're going to call me Dr. Will Patterson. So I used to start signing my names, Dr. Will Patterson, on Ford Gallery in Joliet Correctional Center. You know? And she has the letters. I look back at those letters now, and I said, did I really say that? And it's in the documents, you know? And this interesting stuff. And she traveled one day. It was probably one of the worst snowstorms we had, and this was around 1980, probably 85. Horrible blizzard. She flew in, drove her godfather's car, this big Lincoln or big Buick Park Avenue, through a snowstorm on 74 to Springfield, or to 72 on Springfield. Came and saw me, stayed in a seedy hotel for 2 days to see me, and went back to Arizona. And I tell that story because when people would ask me as we journey through life, they said, you know, why did you guys decide to marry outside of your race? I said, well, that wasn't the plan. You know, I come from a family of strong black women. I said, but when you meet someone like Lori Patterson, she shifts all that, right? And what's more important, she actually represented the spirit of all the women in my family. So it's no wonder that my Aunt Ethel is here. I'll tell her, I said, you and Aunt Ethel May are kindred spirits, because every time I leave the house, she asks me if I got a sweater on. And so my aunt is always trying to keep us warm with sweaters and stuff. So it was at that moment in those times that when she and Mom met, and my sister was away at school, and she's like, you bringing this white girl into the house, Mom ain't gonna like all this. And her and Lori ended up becoming the best of friends, because again, their spirits were very similar in terms of leadership, community, responsibility, and a number of different things. And when we decided to have children, which was something also was another Jewish Jedi mind trick, and her deciding when that would happen. And she gave me an ultimatum. And we were living in Chicago, and she was working at Anderson at the time, and I had already been up there. I was going to Columbia College and had graduated from there. And this was after my experiences at Parkland, and really again, I just can't even begin to say enough about Parkland in terms of what it represents in terms of, like as Lori talked, miracles. It's the real deal. It's really the real deal. I'm going to jump around a bit because when I say that, I mean I literally walk and I breathe that. Now, to give you an example, today, just as Greg had talked about, I was talking about the lawnmower piece. I do have a knack for kind of seeing. I think we all have God-given talents in some capacities, but you have to develop your talents and skills. And mine has been great vision and to see how to connect particular things. And so I'm like, my son, stand up, Donovan. He's our youngest child. That's his mom. Yeah. He started watching me mow, and we began mowing, when he was 8 years old. And he's a very meticulous mower. He really gets into the lines, as he says. Dad, your lines aren't good. So he took on lawn care for me. But he said, Dad, he said, when I turned 16, which he just did a couple weeks ago, he said, I'm going to hire a friend of mine to cut grass with me. Entrepreneurship. And his friend also was an Eagle Scout. So both of my sons are Eagle Scouts. And sure enough, as soon as he turned 16, he bought his own car with his own money. Okay, that started with his mama, all right? And Lori, I'll tell you stories of her entrepreneurial ventures, but the spirit of that kind of is embodied in our home. And so he bought his own car. Sure enough, I'm out in the house like last week, and I see his friend, and they took off in my truck and started cutting grass. And I'm like, okay, I said, this is when you see entrepreneurship happening. It's in real time. And you have to see it when it's going on. And so I started thinking, I'm like, gosh, I said, you guys are Eagle Scouts, perseverance, spirit, all of those things are happening, and you're demonstrating that in the work. And I said, I said, Donovan, I got an idea. I said, I want to take a picture of you and Josh in your Eagle Scout regalia. I said, we're going to put together a letter, and we're going to give it to the Prairie Lands Council. I said, let's talk about 2 Eagle Scouts and a more, much like 2 men in the truck. I said, now we take that concept and we start talking about rebuilding communities and beautifying communities. There are many young people that have never owned a home, never been part of a family structure to cut grass, that are now in our communities from the urban cities that don't know how to do any of these things. Scouting provided both of my sons with the opportunity to learn those skills, and their mother was the instrumental player in making certain that happened on a regular basis. And so now I had a conversation with Greg Knott on Parkland's board yesterday. We had a good shot of biscuits and gravies at Courier Cafe, of course. I said, you eat biscuits and gravy? He said, yep. Let's do business. So we did some business over biscuits and gravy. And we talked about, he said, Will, I'm an Eagle Scout. I said, see? I said, so then he said, man, give me that story immediately. I want to take it on a national scale. I said, and guess what? I said, we'll get John Deere involved. I said, because I just saw a John Deere mower just like the one we have in Chicago cutting grass. I said, so now we start talking about how you can take Eagle Scouting and take scouts and show them entrepreneurship every step of the way through scouting to ultimately they could own their own mowers and have their own businesses. A lot of that development could happen at Parkland's program as well as be developed up through the U of I through our Tech Entrepreneurship Initiative. So all these connections happen, and these are the conversations that Lori and I have on a regular basis in our home. So it's very exciting and fitting to me when I think about this journey, Lori, that we've been on. It's in real time. She's 6 months older than I am, and I've been marveled just in terms of the people that are in the room, the pixel knots at the table, how y'all get down, and the work that happens there. And I just can't say thank you enough for everybody that really helped us through a very troubling time last year. But here's the thing, it's the spirit of leadership even through your most desolate time that you get through. And Lori would show right out of surgery, after 9 hours of surgery, I had a conversation with God right before she went into surgery. When my mom passed away, I had a very good conversation with God, and I went and talked to God when I found out Lori was ill. I said, hey, I'm only talking to you a couple times in terms of asking for things, and this is one that we need you to fix. You built her, you made her, you can fix her. And literally, we hadn't planned on seeing the surgeon until a week later. We got a call, like we were at Courier Cafe. Everybody knows that's just where we hang. And she's like, Reese, we can get into the doctor right now if they said we can come over. And literally, the doctor had she was scheduled to go meet the doctor like on that Tuesday, and she was having surgery on that Thursday. And 9 hours of surgery came out of there, and I'm telling you, like 3 or 4 days later, she was laying in her hospital bed doing leg exercises. It's like, now what's wrong with you? I said, who does that? You know? I said, but that's the miracle, that when you have a great spirit that does great work, that understands how to build community, is so important. And her journey has been consistently that. When Lori was working on her mechanical engineering degree, she got a co-op at John Deere. And this is interesting how it all kind of rolls back now to John Deere. And she wanted me to come to see her place. She was in Dubuque, Iowa. Now, there's not many folks that look like me in Dubuque, Iowa, right? But Lori was there, so I had to go. And I remember driving on the bus and going to Dubuque, Iowa. And she said, I want you to come see where I work. I'm like, I said, oh man, these folks ain't gonna like me because they ain't gonna be used to me, right? So we get in there and we go in and we go on a plant tour. And I'm telling you, we're on this thing and we're riding, and it was like being in a time warp. And the lines just began stopping. The deeper we got, the more and more folks stopped working and were just watching and looking at us, to the point that it shut the company down. And then Lori told me, she didn't tell me, but the vice president, I think, said that something came up, so they stopped the tour. Later, I found out that I had caused so much disruption that they had to stop the tour. And that's when you talk about risk-taking and leadership. And it never stopped in every company that she went to, from Caterpillar on to, every last one of them. So it's just no surprise that, in developing the company that exists now, that same spirit exists. And so, and in every step, in every committee, every organization that she's been involved in, she's been talking and living this idea of inclusion and cultural indifference and how important that is. And we're clearly at a time in the country now where that has to reign supreme. That if we find and see individuals, we stop and say, hey, there's something about your spirit that I want to be part of. The young man I saw today at Rural King packing a shelf, I said, what do you plan on doing with your life? Is this what you do? He said, no, I'm a manager, but I said, you like cars? Yeah, I like cars. I said, we'll have a conversation with the president of Parkland tomorrow, and we want to have a conversation about automobile technology, because they need guys like you to get through that program. Are you committed to make it happen? Yeah, I'm committed to make it happen. Good, because I'm going to be back to see you to make it certain that we make it happen. I said, because other kids in the neighborhood need to see you do it too. And that's the thing, that when we start talking about leadership and change, that it's individuals that have to see you do it too. Lori is the person that makes you see how to do it and make you do it too, right? And so on a final note, and James, I got to say a special thank you to you, Dr. Shepard, for having the spirit and the perseverance and the agency to save my wife and my children's mother. Okay? Family networks are so important, and we have a great family network, and that means all of you up in here, right? My oldest child, Maya, who's right there, I've always said as a father, damn the man who makes my daughter cry. He's going to have a hard time. It wasn't a man, it was cancer, and it made my child cry. And it hurt my heart to see my child cry, right? And my child's not crying anymore, right? That's important. But here's on the final, my oldest son is not here. This is where the mom, where the tough Jewish mom comes in, and I've never seen nothing like this before. So I'm in the bedroom, we're getting dressed, I'm doing something. And he had been screwing around in school, something happened. And I'm 300 pounds, so when daddy's law jumps, I got some weight behind it, right? Lori doesn't have 300 pounds, but she got some negotiation skills that does the trick. So he's push back and talking, and she said, you know what? You're not good enough, and I wouldn't hire you. I said, you just got the worst whooping I've ever seen anybody get without a belt. Your mama just said she wouldn't hire you because you're not good enough. He said, yes, I am. She said, no, you're not. And you're not going to do anything because you're not good enough. That boy turned that stuff around. He straight A's now on every honor roll you can imagine. And trust and believe he wants his mom to hire him, right? Lori Patterson, thank you for this journey. You know, we got a lot of work to do still. We're still about changing the world, one idea at a time. And doing that work, you can't ask for a better life partner. We decided we'd grow up together. We also decided that we'd lead a planet around the same time. You know, hopefully that won't be too soon. But when you find the one that's like that, that's your kindred spirit with, you hold on to them, y'all. You know, so that's what I'm going to do. Lori Patterson, y'all.
We now have a video presentation that will highlight Lori's life and have some tributes. I do want to give an acknowledgement to Chris Foster. Chris, where are you? Can you wave at us wherever you are? Thank you for all you do and all your efforts through the years in putting these videos together. Chris does a wonderful job with this.
I guess I don't want to start off by being a cliche and saying my mom is the best mom ever, but fact is fact. She is.
She wants us to be successful and happy in what we do in our life, and education is definitely a big part of that. So she really tries to enforce that onto us.
I'm pretty sure that everybody in that room can contest when we say that you're one of the primary and most major influences in our life, and that we couldn't do anything, or I couldn't do anything without you.
She has stories when she was a kid of starting businesses, and she's just always had that spirit of creating something from nothing and making it work, and being creative and putting people together to make cool things happen. So it's fun to be part of that spirit and workplace.
It's pretty special and unique, especially in a community of this size, to conceptualize, start, grow, build yourself as leader, as CEO and majority owner, such a successful business.
So Lori's been a tireless entrepreneur, and one of the biggest things that I see is her leadership over at Pixo. She runs that place really well and has built it up from nothing, which is an amazing accomplishment because they do some incredible work over there.
Working in the environment that she has put together is awesome. It's actually pretty incredible. There's this concept that if you look at the knowledge pool for human beings and what we know, which is a lot, but what we know versus what we could know is actually really small, because for so long, for so many years, we wouldn't let everyone contribute. If you were a woman, you couldn't contribute. If you were a minority, you couldn't contribute. If you had some handicap, you couldn't contribute. Only these people can contribute. This is the opposite of that. Everyone gets an equal opportunity to make their contribution to the knowledge pool.
So one of the other amazing things about Lori is just that she knows diversity from the inside. As somebody who was a female student in mechanical engineering, is her degree, at a time when there were not a lot of females in mechanical engineering, she really saw the kind of boys club of oh, Missy, maybe you should, change your major to home ec or something.
Women don't start tech companies. That's a man's business, right? Maybe Lori's just a little, but anyone who knows her knows that's absolutely not the case. She decided that she could build a company and maintain a family, and that she could create an environment for her employees, a culture where they would be allowed to do the same thing. She believes that less is more. By asking less of her employees, they would deliver more value to her customers. She believed that people, not profit, ruled. And the funny thing is, it worked. Pixo became a big success.
in neighborhood association and the Urbana Business Association, Lori is quite impressive because she doesn't just join to join. She joins to make things happen, and she literally does. The way she gets involved and gets people involved.
I remember stories of a school she started to meet the needs of young black males. That's just a demonstration of how she would see something that needed to be done, and rather than demand for others to do it, she brings together the best people in the community and makes it happen.
You know, over the years, many people from Pixo here have served on boards of Kudo and UBA and the EDC and UC2B and just a ton of community organizations and things. And that's something Lori encourages in every employee, is like, how can you give back to your community? How can you get involved? And believes that, you know, that stuff actually makes you better in your workplace too, when you understand the community around you, when you're engaged.
Lori has always been a tireless mentor for other startups in the community. She comes over and lends her advice to young startups, much like us, to help us understand what is the best way to build your company.
Lori not only took time to foster and help develop entrepreneurship within our company, but she also has taken a special interest in each one of us. And not only is it her time and her energy driven towards our company, but it's to each one of us personally.
If I were to describe a superpower that Lori possesses, it is her ability to ask just the right question at the right time. If you happen to be lucky enough to be a good friend of Lori's, she asks those same hard questions of me as a leader and helps me to grow as well.
So she makes a big difference in whatever she's involved in because she has good ideas and she knows how to communicate them well and motivate people because of that style of communication to follow her.
As you go through life, I'm 76 years old, so I've had a long journey through this life, and you meet, literally you meet thousands of people. Been in business, I've met hundreds of thousands of people, and some you don't even remember. Some leave a little bit of an impression, and then there's those that leave a lasting impression, and that's probably what Lori is. I'm proud of her, I'm proud to know her, proud to be her friend.
When she was going through her situation last year with the illness, people came from far and wide. The building was packed, and everyone was just eager to do their part. There were so many people that all of the tasks were filled, and there was not a surplus of things to be done. The people that didn't get anything to do, they were disappointed because, like, we want to help, we want to contribute. And I told her too, after she was much better, I was like, you don't know how deeply you touch people. Like, this was an amazing thing to see.
I just wanted to take this moment to thank Lori for being an incredible mentor. And I just hope that one day I can be the person that she sees inside of me. And it's through that tough mentorship and that encouragement and that love that has really impacted me and made me the woman that I am today.
Lori, you're a force for good. I thank you for letting me be part of your life. I love you.
Family-wise, she always likes to be around the house, always telling us to clean things or watch movies, have nice family time. She's just a very wonderful person who is very joyful, and just love her to death.
You know, I love you to the moon and back, and then to the stars, and then over to Mars a couple of times, back and forth between Jupiter for, you know, a couple of trips, and then off to Venus. And so that's pretty much the extent of what the love is. I don't know how far that is. Somebody can calculate that.
I hope one day to be like half the woman she is. I hope to have a fraction of her honesty, her strength, her lovingness, her tenacity, her caring, her self-worth, her intelligence and wit and humor. I want to be just like my mom when I grow up. Congrats, Mom.
superpower to see the opportunity in other people, a spirit of gratitude, a spirit of leadership, a spirit of giving. A wonderful, beautiful family. It's clear that Lori Gold Patterson is not only a wonderful entrepreneur, she's a wonderful human being. Lori, please come up and accept the award.
You all have me looking ugly for this camera that's like, you can't, when you feel like this, you can't smile and look cute. In fact, my high schooler, Donovan, always talks about that the girls at school are always in their feelings. That's like a new saying, they're in their feelings. So before you say it, I am in my feelings. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Dale Kozad, but he has his legacy is so strong in this community, and I am so honored and just grateful that that he did all the hard work that he did, so that all the incredible people that wanted to honor him partnered with Parkland came together. And I thank you for getting to know me over these last couple of months, and I thank your family really for you know giving this community, your dad, your husband. So this community is very lucky. I want to thank Parkland, specifically Susan. Where's Susan? Who has put together an incredible event here. And Chris, I know Chris, you've already been recognized back there by the camera, of course. Your talent is fantastic, and if you ever need a job, sorry, Tom, I did not mean that. And Ellen, and Dr. Ramage, just thank you. I want to thank my Pixo colleagues and their significant others. If all of you significant others as well could stand up, all Pixo knots. You all, and your significant others, put a lot of trust in Pixo, and you put a lot of trust in me to support your families and your well-being, and I am so grateful and honored. Shauna, where is Shauna? Shauna, I want to just thank you for always having my back and for coordinating on my behalf for this incredible event. And Peter Fox, I know, wanted to be here and was not able to. He is an incredible mentor to me, and I wanted to thank him for all that he does, not just for me, but really for our community. So I have a table of family here, and I just want to talk, just recognize them for a minute. My children, we've mentioned that Jordan, the middle one, is not here, but you all are the greatest gift that could ever be given to a mom, to anybody, really. And you have the drive and the integrity that all of us in this room just hope for from our young generation. So you really are just everything to me. My mom, who raised me to have deep self-confidence and to trust my instincts, and who you have made me feel cherished from the very first moment that I can remember, and forever. So I thank you. To Tim, my neighbor, who was actually my neighbor 20 years ago, and then about 17 years ago, came next door and wanted to tell me that his wife had left. And so I sent him down the street to go spend some time with this woman that I knew could counsel him, could empathize with him, and he's been my stepfather basically ever since. I love you. To my cousin Sis, my Aunt Etheme, you all have enriched my life for over 30 years. I love you all, you're my family. And to my best friend Jewel, who is really my partner in crime in our endeavor to change the world one young person at a time. And my husband, who, I was going to say he knows me better than anyone else, but some of those stories he told, I might not want to acknowledge that he actually knows me that well. You bring me back to myself when I lose my way. You know me from the depths, and you have always encouraged me to fulfill my dreams and to reach my potential. And we have many more dreams and far more potential. We have just begun. Brandon, if you would just stand up for 1 minute. Brandon's been my business partner for, I think we're almost going on 19 years now. And he's an incredible contributor to this community. He is one of the really hard workers and one of the individuals who made UC2B happen in our community, our world-class fiber optic broadband. And he served 2 terms on our Banning City Council. He and his family are moving in July. They're relocating to Seattle, and we're going to miss you so dearly. This whole community is going to miss you. I personally may be getting in your luggage. So it didn't go unnoticed that I'm the first woman that's received this gracious honor. This community has a plethora of brilliant, talented, powerful women. There's 2 organizations that I've had just the luxury of being part of, the Executive Club and Leadership Illinois, both of which are focused on women. If all of us who are part of Leadership Illinois or Executive Club, if you would stand up for a minute. These are women that you want to know. The music tonight was Mo Better. It was it's Banks Bridgewater Lewis Fine Arts Academy. They weren't called that until recently, so what comes off of my tongue is Mo Better. And I think the performance ensemble is still called the Mo Better Performance Ensemble. Nathaniel Banks and Robert Lewis, just raise your hands for a minute. These 2. These 2 are tireless mentors and brought this organization together, I don't know how many years, 7, 8, 9 years, 8 years ago maybe now, 10 years ago. My children, my 2 oldest were part of it when they were young, and I think Donovan, when he was maybe 7, started in this program. And their original mission was to enable underprivileged and underrepresented children to hold first chair seats in their school bands. I wanted them to perform tonight, and I know we didn't get to spend a lot of time, focus on them, but this program has really, for my children, been one of the primary things in this community that's really introduced and built their poise and their work ethic and their character. It's a very underfunded program, and we have a lot of brilliant people with a lot of resources in the room. So if you have both financial resources or in-kind resources, they, for example, are really needing classroom space and performance space, please seek out Nathaniel Banks or ask me to connect you to him. So I think this has come out in some of the comments, but I often talk about entrepreneurship as individuals who see an irritant, a challenge, so we called it, an irritant, and can't stop themselves from doing something about it. An irritant is something like not having the right tool for the job, or seeing potential that's unrealized. And those that own businesses are not the only ones that have kind of this do something about it spirit. There's what I call and others call intrapreneurs, those who operate within other businesses with an entrepreneurial spirit, where they can't stop themselves when they see an irritant. They can't stop themselves from fixing it, from investing in it. This mindset and skill is something that I think that all young people need to be exposed to. Those who believe they want to be and are going to be entrepreneurs, and those who don't. Tonight is exceptionally important because it helps fund Parkland's program that's doing just this. So I am grateful that Parkland has this program, and this is really an amazing thing that we have in our community. So one of my mentors, Paul Tapman, who you saw in the video, and who there's 2 seats sitting here for him, he and his wife, except that he has it on his calendar that it's tomorrow, which I may say is not that unusual for Paul Tapman. He really was, he's been a key mentor for me for years, and really helped develop my entrepreneurial skills, and to learn to trust my instincts in business. And I just want to tell you one story, and then we get to pack up and go home and get in our pajamas. A number of years ago, I get this call from Paul, and he says, "Patterson, meet me at so-and-so building at so-and-so time. There's a land auction that's happening and you need to be there." Up. Like, a land auction? What do I have to do with a land auction? But Paul calls, you go, and so I show up, and there's this room full of tables, all these individual parties, and this was the land auction for the land on Highway 130 south of Walmart and in Urbana. And people they're doing this really interesting stuff all on the screen. It's not some loud person up there like you'd expect in an auction. And Paul's kind of pretending that he needs my advice, and he's telling me kind of what's going on. And over a little bit of time, everybody kind of falls out of the bidding except for 2 parties. One of the parties, he explains to me, is Menards. And Menards wants to purchase the land so that they can build a Menards across from Walmart, and then to parcel the rest of that land out so that other developers, other economic development can happen there. The other party was a family, a couple, who purchases farmland and holds it in trust for their future generations, and they would farm the land, keep it as farmland. Farmland is wonderful, but he explained to me that for Urbana, this was really the only significant land opportunity that Urbana had for real business and economic development. And if the auction was won by the family, that Urbana would not have this opportunity. So I'm like, well, what's going to be done? Like, who's doing something about this? And so I go over to the City of Urbana table, and I ask them, does this couple know the significance of this land? And they say, well, we gave them the materials as, we're obligated to do for anyone that's interested. And I said, but do you know if they understand the significance of this land? And they said, no. So I go back to the table, and I'm just on a rant. And I'm like, Paul, and you see the numbers, and it's kind of ticking away. And Paul says, well, this is looking pretty bad for Urbana because Menards has a cap that they've been given by corporate. The family does not have that cap, and it looks like the family's going to get the land. So I'm like, oh, Paul. And finally he says, why are you sitting here, Patterson? Why don't you go do something about it? I'm like, okay. So I get up, and I go and I sit down next to the wife, and I introduce myself, and I say, I don't know if you know, but this land is significant land for economic development for this community. And if you are thinking that you'll be farming the land rather than parceling it out for economic development, I would ask that you all cease bidding. So she turns and talks to her husband, and she turns back to me and she says, who do you represent? And I said, I grew up in town, I own a business, and my mission is to try to ensure that Champaign-Urbana is a place that my children, when they grow up, will want to return to. And she leans over and talks to her husband again, and they close their books, and they walk out. The program that we're supporting tonight focuses on developing the do something about it people. And those do something about it people, whether it's Paul, who should have gotten up off the chair. Why did Paul not get up off the chair? And I may just add really quick. So Paul, those of you who know Paul, know that he talks with these marbles in his mouth. He talks, I think the words are really down here, but by the time they come out, you can't really hear them. So he may not have said do something about it, but that's what I took away. I am so proud to be in the company in this room of Do Something About It people, and the people in the room like Dale who are not here but were absolutely do something about it. This is a night that I don't know how I'll ever digest this. I cannot thank you enough. So to finish, I just want to say that this afternoon, Preston Williams, probably many of you know Preston Williams, he retired, a retired school superintendent in Urbana, stopped by the house to congratulate me and to say that his wife weren't going to be able to be here tonight. And he said this thing that just resonated with me. He said that his father had a saying, it's good when you get to smell your own flowers. I'm smelling them. So I thank you.
Lori, again, a very, very special congratulations to you from all of the faculty, the staff, the students, and the Board of Trustees at Parkland College. Our faith in our award has been well invested. So thank you again. There's one last thing that I want to remind you about. I can't remember what it is. Something about our 50th year of operation, and if you hadn't heard, we're having a little celebration of that event on August 20th coming up at the college. Should be an interesting event, not your typical Parkland College Gala, that's for sure. I heard something about gambling, but not really gambling, something along those lines. And you may have noticed that there was a car parked in front of the door on your way in. That car will be given away on August 20th, 2016. It was built on August 20th, 1966 for reference, and donated very generously by Warden Martin and Charlie Chaplin. Charlie's here. Thank you very much for your donation, Charlie. And I think Mark Palafis is here as well, both graduates of Parkland College. Tickets are still available, although not many, and I think they might be available outside the door, so I'd encourage you to look into that if you want a Mustang. After that, we will continue to be part of this community, working to the best of our ability that the community supports and has so ably supported for the past 50 years, and we look forward to another 50 with you as long as the state of Illinois gets its act together. Thank you very much for joining us today, and congratulations again, Lori and family. Have a good evening.